Hey, it's Chaboy Condor Calabasas. Something a little bit different today. A review of a Netflix documentary, and like everything, I like to get a little bit of cringe. I wouldn't have done this review unless I thought there was some satisfying cringe here. So, I'm pretty much going to get right into the review. Typically, I wouldn't even do this, but humanist, ego death, left-leaning, and I don't care about your feelings. Worth keeping that in mind. Oh yeah, and above all, unlike the majority of you stupid clowns that like to cry at me, my life is actually hard. See, I was beaten as a child for years on end by a large man known as my father, and you couldn't relate to that. And I also, unlike a lot of people who have to deal with something similar, I have to deal with a bunch of incel women, otherwise known as feminists, who cry at me on a regular basis about the fact that I experienced that. I don't really get it. But yeah, feminists are incels. Let's get into the video though. So this is going to be a review. I'm just going to talk about like what's wrong with this as a whole. You know, overall, I tolerate Netflix. I'm okay with Netflix. I'm not a Netflix hater, but there is some wicked. Netflix probably has monopoly on cringe right now in terms of like streaming services and like content. They also have like, in my opinion, some of the best content too. But you know, if you don't like Netflix because it makes you cringe, then I can definitely understand where you're coming from. Let's get it straight into the review. I said that like 3 times now, but I'm actually doing it now. So this is, for those of you who don't know, this is Untold, the girlfriend who didn't exist. This is a story about Manti Te'o. Long story short, I don't have to really give a deep synopsis here, I don't think. He got catfished. And basically, the media in general destroyed him, except for the media group who actually revealed the story. Pretty much every other media group just destroyed this man for being a victim of being catfished. That's like the long gist. That is the synopsis that you would probably be interested in hearing. Anyways, let's get right into this review. I got some notes here. We're going to go over the notes. So, the first thing you notice here is, the first thing I notice as, you know, somebody who isn't privileged, is the extreme privilege of this woman. And I'm not even going to mention her name, and the reason why I'm not going to mention her name is as a reminder to any of the man-hating incels, aka feminists, watching this video, that I have PTSD, and it's very difficult for me to remember names. I think it was Rania. Again, no idea, not gonna try and remember it, because I have PTSD, and it's a fun reminder that feminists are garbage, and they get offended by that. They literally get triggered by me having PTSD. Funny that. Anyways, so this is one of the most, this is how you know, like, insecure women are the most privileged people on the planet. Like, the moment a woman with self-esteem stands up for men or something, it's just, she gets the most misogynistic garbage from other women, feminist women, typically. And as opposed to that, you have extremely privileged women like this woman using mental gymnastics about how her stalking a man for who knows how long isn't creepy. She wasn't doing it in a creepy way. I didn't know you could stalk somebody and not be a creep. See, that's privilege. That's mental gymnastics. That's delusion, and that's how you know insecure women are the most privileged people on the planet. We already have the proof right here. She's not creepy, but she's also a stalker. Right. That makes sense. And the other thing is, it's not just creepy. It's creepy, it's sociopathic, and it's abusive. Whoops. That's awfully privileged. Weird how creepy is the only one that's really referenced at any point in the Netflix documentary. You'd think if, like, people cared so much about inclusion and, like, the interviewers asked decent questions, why don't they ask them, like, isn't your behavior abusive? Isn't it sociopathic? Do you think you should receive some sort of jail time or punishment for what you've done to this man? See, questions like that would actually be logical and make a lot of sense and clearly come from a place that isn't misogynist. Because, of course, the people who ask these kind of questions to someone like this abuser, they're throwing them softballs intentionally. There's a reason why we aren't hearing questions like, don't you think your behavior is sociopathic or abusive? It's because these people sympathize with the sociopaths. It's that common. That's how common it is to worship insecure women. Oh, what? She's super insecure and she's probably going to cry at, like, the drop of the hat? Oh, well, we gotta treat her like a little child, everybody. She didn't mean to. She said it wasn't creepy. That means it wasn't creepy, bro. Who cares if she stalked this man for who knows how long? She said it wasn't creepy, and that's all we need to know. Cringe. Yeah. No white man on the planet has this level of privilege. This is next level privilege. Like, imagine a man stalking a woman and then having this Netflix documentary and being thrown softball questions and being able to say things like, well, I didn't feel good about stalking the woman. I felt so bad. Oh, and then I had to, like, lie to her again and again, and I obviously couldn't just, like, leave her alone and, like, stop contacting her. No. I had to go out of my way to keep contacting her in more and more elaborate ways to keep the relationship going. But, you know, I didn't feel good about it. And it wasn't creepy. Oh, that changes everything. They said they didn't feel good and that it wasn't creepy. I'm just glad everything that people say is just 100% fact. We can take it at face value. People never lie, and that is so awesome. I am excited and happy to hear that. I'm stoked. I hope you're all stoked. Nothing is wrong with this person. This is perfectly normal behavior. It's, according to this person, it's totally, you know, as long as you say you didn't mean to, and you felt bad about it, and it wasn't creepy, it's all good. You can stalk people all you want. And yeah, this is like one of those consistent themes that you see with Netflix documentaries, especially lately. There was that one where it was like the most hated man on the internet, and his girlfriend was just like this dumpster fire of a woman, and constantly sounded like she was just finished taking a bunch of meth or heroin or something, and we're supposed to feel bad for this woman. Like, this is cringe. That's privilege. I wish my life was that easy. She's like, in that other document, she's like, oh, I didn't know what he was doing, and like, when he was doing it, I knew it was bad, but I didn't know how bad, and then I saw how bad, and I was like, oh, I need to get out of here, but I'm scared, and like, she's such a victim, dude. She's such, like, it's pathetic. This is one of those things that I just cannot stand about Netflix, how they sympathize with the most delusional, privileged incel women. Like, and the softball questions that those women get. It's fucking cringe. Oh yeah, the second half is like hilarious gold. It's just so cringe. This is like, you know, the patriarchy doesn't exist because 99% of the time when someone says something homophobic, it's directed towards a man and almost never a woman. Weird that. weird how we don't talk about that form of privilege. That would be like offensive to all the insecure women, right? Like, this guy is assumed because he was catfished by this woman who is trans, or was trans. I don't know what the correct terminology there is. I don't really care that much, to be completely honest. This woman, because he was catfished, because he's the victim, somehow the media decided that he is now homosexual. And this entire thing was his plan to cover up him being a homosexual. And this was gone with on numerous media outlets. This is something that, like, women don't have to worry about. And this is one of those examples of toxic femininity and feminists, something that feminists do all the time. Every single time I go on some gaming feminist channel, Eurogamer is a great example, there's feminist women making homophobic jokes, acting like total incels. Like, it is cringe. Feminists are the most homophobic people on the planet, and toxic femininity, one of those examples of it, is homophobia. And the second part of this documentary does a great job of highlighting that. And I think I kind of already covered this, but you can tell this woman is an abuser and a sociopath, 100%, not maybe, because of how they think. So let's first, like, go through it a little bit. It's not like one example of abuse, right? So if somebody does one example of abuse, it's possible in a lot of situations, depending on the type of abuse, this is just for a majority of abuses, it can be argued as unintentional. It could be, temporary insanity. There are sometimes not justified reasons, but understandable reasons why somebody may act extremely out of line and become abusive. Sometimes, well, actually there are, in rare occasions, where it's even justified that somebody becomes abusive towards another person, but that's like another conversation entirely. In situations like this, like, for example, if this was just like one instance of someone, like, not even that, it could be multiple instances. In the beginning of this documentary, it's revealed that this woman has done it more than once before she actually does it to Manti. So she's catfishing other people, but as soon as it gets a little bit serious, she ends the relationship. This is actually not, I wouldn't call this sociopathic, I wouldn't call that abusive. That right there, it's so borderline. It could be. It definitely could be. She could have done it in an abusive way. She could have done it in a sociopathic way. But based on what she's saying, it seems like it's possible it could be sociopathic and abusive based on what happens later, what she does later, or it could be just her trying to, like, figure out herself and learn about herself. And unfortunately, she is using other people and stepping on other people's feelings than to do that. But that's pretty common among human beings in general. So if we just, like, take the behavior out of context, which you shouldn't do, her behavior in the first part is actually not a big deal. It's not really abusive. It's not sociopathic. It's not really a problem. It's actually, like, if somebody's listening and you're doing that to somebody, you shouldn't be demonizing yourself. You shouldn't be treating yourself like, acting like you're a sociopathic piece of garbage, because chances are just as likely that you are not. So assuming either way is silly. Just do you. Don't think about that, cross that bridge, a bridge when you come to it, etc. Anyways, so because this woman went on and continued to do this behavior in multiple different ways and continued to gain the same amount of control, you see, as soon as they had, like, one story, one situation that more or less resolved itself, they couldn't do the exact same thing. So in order to have a similar amount of power, they had to do exactly what they did, which is come up with a new and elaborate manipulative way to, like, keep him invested, interested, and believing what's happening is real. This is how the abuser holds on to power. It's just like in another Netflix documentary that just came out that I cannot remember at all, which it's about this kid who's basically held against his will. And it's a different kind of abuse. In that documentary, it's psychopathic abuse. In this documentary, it's sociopathic abuse. So for the sociopath, it's many different instances, and because of all these different instances of these abuse, you know this person is abusive. You know this person is a sociopath. You know this person desperately needs help. There's no defending this behavior at any point. Once she's at the stage where she's like going to meet this guy and like lying about having like this little cousin and making the little cousin girl lie for her, it's insane. It's sick shit. It's sociopathic. It's abusive. And yeah, that's how you know. Yeah, went over that. Oh yeah, this is just like, this is the cringe part of the documentary. Throughout like at least one part of the documentary, she's talking as if she's like actually knows this guy and she's friends with this guy, and she's like, oh, I hope like he took my advice, and oh, I can see that he did take my advice, or whatever the hell she says. And it's just like, it is embarrassing to see some stalker person actually feel justified and acting like they know that they're friends with, that like you're not, you stalked him, like you don't know him, don't act like you know him. It's even creepier and weirder that this person still to this day has zero self-awareness whatsoever. They have no understanding of what was wrong with what they did. Yeah, she talks constantly, talking about all the pain she feels, all the guilt she feels. She's such a victim. This is like, if you actually care about social issues, then you will be roasting anyone, man or woman, no matter who they are, with a victim complex. That is insanely disrespectful to people who have been through any form of abuse, let alone the level I have. Do not ever tolerate someone with a victim complex. That is easily like one of the most disgusting parts of this entire thing. How she dares even consider talking about how her life is difficult. No one cares. We shouldn't care. Well, I hope no one cares. She's a dumpster fire of a person, and you shouldn't care about dumpster fire people like that. And then we have like one of my favorite parts of the documentary, because it's just proof of everything that I mention all the time, the privilege gap between men and women. His dad says he should have known. This is commonplace for men. I've experienced this so many times in my life. I've been sucker punched and then had a teacher watch that and then say I deserve that. That's a common thing for men. This is something that women, especially insecure women, especially feminist women, have so much privilege they have no clue about. You incel ladies could not imagine what it's like to be not only hit in the face really, really hard, but then expected to like not cry, man up, get over it, and then that person isn't getting in any trouble whatsoever. You know, no one's getting mad at that person. Like, it's cringe. Y'all couldn't imagine. And yeah, that just like it made me laugh seeing his dad saying he should have known. Like, no one says that about women. Imagine if it's just like literally just swap the genders around. Oh, well, she's my oldest, so, you know, she should have known better. She shouldn't have got stalked like that. we call that victim blaming when it happens to women, but when it happens to men, it's just like, it's not anything, it's just whatever. Oh, yeah, another part that I love about this documentary is basically everything's out. This is far into the second part. This is like, we're almost getting to the end here. The media is trying to, like, the decent folk, I believe, the decent media outlet who's, like, actually gotten the story out and is actually just, like, trying to report, doing, like, a decent, normal job that very few journalists in general do. They try to contact the abuser, and the abuser won't pick up. And the abuser says, and I quote, "This is not how we're going to do this." This is, again, another example of that being an abuser. Another example of that sociopathic behavior. They need the power. They need the control. They need to know that they have the benefit of the doubt. They need to think of, like, ways out in the conversation. They need to think of ways to excuse their behavior. You can't just, like, you can't put a sociopath on the spot. They know that. Sociopaths know that. That's why I love putting sociopaths on the spot. That's why I love talking about, like, you know, asking some incel feminist about, like, the cis white male gaze and how it doesn't exist, or the patriarchy not existing, because all these incel women, all feminists, they're stupid as hell, and they don't have the intelligence to, like, problem solve and think of things on the spot. They have to, like, literally be told. They have to have, like, a script going, more or less. So yeah, that's exactly how this woman thinks. She's got the reason why she doesn't want to do it at that moment in time is because it's not on her terms. She hasn't thought of the strategy. She hasn't come up with the plans yet. This is how sociopaths think. This is how abusers think. They need to have the strategy, the plan first. All right, and that's basically all the video. Honestly, that's it for today. Yeah. I can't think of anything else to say. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching. I love doing this review. I'm definitely going to do more of these. Appreciate ya. Bye.